Welcome to Selling Chicago episode 4, and welcome to my home. Let's walk you guys through. We're going to show you some things in here that maybe trigger some ideas for you at home. Calvin, how do I look?
You look great. Oh my God. Yes.
I love this. This is pretty amazing.
The search is over, baby. I'm right here, and I got it.
Hi, I'm Nick Liebert, and welcome to Selling Chicago. I've been a real estate broker for over 23 years with a mission to empower lives through property.
I got it.
My goal is to show you episode by episode some of the beautiful neighborhoods of Chicago, highlight some of my favorite businesses, and of course, show you some of EXIT Strategy Realty's finest listings.
I got it.
Hello, welcome to Selling Chicago episode 4, and welcome to my home. I'm Nick Liebert, your host from EXIT Realty, and I'm excited today to be showing you all about home renovations, how to build value, get some equity in your home you may not have. We're also going to be discussing condo associations. I live in a condo building. You may be considering a condominium building as well. What do you need to look for in those? Furthermore, we're going to dive into foreclosures and short sales. What's the difference between the two? How those can work for you to get, again, more value and appreciation. There's a lot we're going to go over today as far as knowledge. We're also going to entertain you a bit. So let's get started. Well, everyone, welcome. It is a pleasure to have not only you in my home, but two of my new favorite people. Actually, one has been a longtime friend of mine. I've known Brock Williams for a decade, and Kenny Arnao I've known probably, 9 months now?
I'm close to that.
He owns his own development and construction company. Kenny worked on a flip project for a good friend of mine. I helped him acquire a property, and then this gentleman came in and did a significant rehab on that property. We were so impressed with the work that when I decided to do finally my own property that I've lived in for almost 10 years, Kenny was the natural choice for me. He's actually going to be working with me on another flip project that I own soon.
Excited.
And my good friend Brock, he's an interior designer, also has a background in architecture. He was obviously a natural choice because I've had him work with me on several of my clients and our mutual friends' properties over the years. I've been so impressed with his work and his imagination, creativity. But when it was finally time to do my own home, I definitely wanted input. Kenny's going to be able to give you a rough estimate of what some things cost, and Brock's going to give you some ideas as to what you can do to really recreate a space without having to do a gut rehab. Let's walk you guys through. We're going to show you some things in here that maybe trigger some ideas for you at home. So let's start from the top. We're going to start with the first area that we worked on, which is actually the ceiling, ironically. When Brock and I started talking about re-envisioning the place, I didn't want to necessarily go overboard with costs. And you can do a lot with lighting that, again, refreshes the place, makes it more your own. I wanted to draw in a much bigger piece, almost what you call a statement piece, when you walked into the room. So that was where we started. So Brock, tell us more about what you did to recreate the space.
So when I started here, I really wanted to create the statement piece that Nick was talking about. Before, there were two smaller chandeliers that wasn't really doing it. So this giant chandelier that you see here was kind of our jumping off point. But what we did like about the two smaller chandeliers was the shadows that they cast onto the ceiling. So that's kind of where we ended up with this lattice work here on the ceiling. It's a grand statement piece and something that you can really interact with as you come from one level to the next. The way to really make that a statement piece is to light it. So that's where the tray ceiling came in. So we've spent quite a bit of our budget on lighting, but I feel like it has definitely paid off.
So with this structure being built in 1899, one of the things that bothered me about the property was that it really didn't feel like it had any of those smart home, modern day features. When Brock and I started discussing lighting, I wanted to be able to have some sort of smart lighting that the mood could change, like we just discussed, but also that was energy efficient. That was a big deal to me. I have the green designation from the National Association of Realtors. I wanted to be able to implement that not only in, like when you saw in episode 3, what Wayne Beals showed us, with new construction. I want to be able to bring some of that same energy efficient and earth friendly environment right into a structure that is from literally the beginning of the last century. Well, everyone, this is about as intimate as you're gonna get in reality TV. This is my master bathroom. And what I wanted to show you in here is that you can redo and reimagine a space without spending a huge amount of money. I wanted something very dramatic with wallpaper. I had plain walls. I had some water damage that Kenny had to come in here and fix. But we kept the cabinetry, the countertops, everything except wallpaper, paint, and these 2 smart mirrors. That was all we did. So Kenny, what would be, you think, a reasonable price range for someone that's not gonna redo cabinetry?
Wallpaper like this or a refresh of paint could cost you anywhere from $600 to $1,200. To change out 2 faucets like this, roughly around $500. And again, that's not changing any of the plumbing. This is just very basic, which is great, which is very budget friendly. Here we have 2 LED mirrors. They were hardwired before, but now they have an outlet in the back, which is also very new. A lot of people are starting to install these, so this is very budget friendly. Let's say you have a fixture in your bathroom, but you want to add some more light. This is a great, convenient way to do it.
We're actually in my primary bedroom. And in here, it was completely flat ceilings. We ended up adding the thick crown molding and then also this piece of millwork around to kind of create more depth to the ceiling. Kenny, how much would it cost on average for someone to do this added millwork to bring some depth to a ceiling?
It could run anywhere from $900 to about $1,400, depending on the material that you get. We used eggshell, satin, semi-gloss, matte. So being able to see all these colors and really see them shine all individually but also playing together was really cool.
We also did a new light fixture in here that was not a light fixture at all. There was some track lighting in the corner. And Brock, tell me more about lighting in terms of where's a great place to start to find it. How do you start that search?
So I start the search initially with the client, trying to figure out what their design style is, because your lighting can really push forward whatever your design style is going to be and really make or break a room. In this case, I would say that's definitely the circumstance. It's really honestly a little bit of a seek and find once you kind of know what style you're looking for, and then really dependent on budget as well. You can really go high end and low end on lighting. That's definitely a place where you can save or really make or break a room.
This room is one of my favorites. This is my dining room, which I don't think I've ever eaten a meal at. The space was not utilized and it was not very functional, not only for dining, but it also started to, during the pandemic, need to double as a workroom for my agents. Brock and I came up with a couple different ideas that I think Kenny executed extremely well. Brock, tell us how we transform this room.
One of the biggest things is the entrance to the room, which is the archway. The overall vibe that I wanted to exude here was a nice, cozy environment for you to invite your friends over, have a great meal together, and for it to be a space that you really enjoyed using. Before, this was very much a pass-through space. You had the bar set up back in the back. People would come in, make a drink, and then they would leave. So I really wanted to make this more of a place where people could gather and feel comfortable doing so.
The chandelier was a big piece. This was actually nothing in the ceiling. It was just the can lights. It was a very raw space. And when we painted the ceiling in here, I started to worry that the room was going to feel closed off. Brock's comment was we actually wanted to make this feel like a more intimate area, and that's when we got into the conversation about the arched doorway. Kenny, one of the things that I really appreciated about your work was the ability to, again, reimagine space. When you did the arched doorway, some of the things that I learned was that you can reimagine a space by changing out not only millwork and those pieces, but also by changing shapes of things. How much was this to do?
With labor and material, it was about $1,500. We basically ripped out the old frame from here, and we used plywood, 2x4, all your normal materials you'd use to frame out a wall or a doorway.
So changing out spaces in terms of the design, the shape, that kind of thing. But there's also other things you can do to refresh a space without ripping out what's already there. And that I'm pointing down at the floors here. These are maple floors. These were in the unit when I bought it. You will see, particularly in foreclosures and short sales, but in any unit that's probably more than 5 years old, if it has hardwood floors, they're gonna need some sort of refresh. And particularly if it's a vintage unit like this, there's probably at some point another water damage, staining, or you just want a fresh color on it. Kenny, how much is the cost to refinish hardwood floors on average?
These roughly cost around $5,000. We sanded it twice, and we laid 3 layers of finish on it. We went with the matte look.
Also, Kenny did replace a few floorboards. So if there's a piece of your floor that's damaged, that doesn't mean the whole floor has to be replaced.
Right.
Also, if there's ridges in the floor, there was water damage in this home when I bought it. What we did here was we did replace a few floorboards, smooth some things out, and it looks like almost brand new floors. Kitchens and baths are often where people start in terms of remodeling because they know that that is where you're most often going to get the most bang for your buck in terms of getting some equity and appreciation in your homes. In my kitchen, we didn't do a lot because, again, I was actually fine with the countertops. So if you've already got granite or a quartz, you can probably work around that. Kenny, on average, what would you say the breakdown is of cost to do something like this?
To refinish cabinets, probably cost you anywhere around $3,000. To put new handles, $200. New fixture in your kitchen, around $200. A new backsplash, depending on if you get one that has an adhesive or if you get a ceramic tile, could cost you anywhere from $700 to $1,200. Also, we did the cabinet lighting here. That could cost anywhere up to $600 to $900, depending if you already had electricity running through your cabinets. Also, again, saving on money on countertops.
As far as colors, I want to ask Brock that question. Now, I chose black. In case you don't know by now, I like dark colors. I think we mentioned that. That doesn't necessarily have to be your color scheme. For you, Brock, what would you say are some other colors, besides black, if that's not in everyone's palette, that are you feel is going to be a little bit more timeless right now?
I always advise keeping something in the neutral scheme, especially for a more expensive remodel. White, gray, whether it be a cool gray or a warm gray is going to be dependent on the rest of your home and maybe possibly what your floors look like.
The final room we're going to show you today was actually one of the 2 rooms that Brock and I started in before I thought I had the money to work with Kenny. And so it was a very personal room to me, especially during COVID. We started working more from home. My second bedroom, I turned into my home office, which actually ended up being also where I bring clients. We started doing Zooms. Everybody did. I was training and coaching our agents by Zoom, doing market analysis and property tours, sometimes even by Zoom. So I wanted a Zoom wall. Brock was painstaking in the way that he selected the different photos and awards and things over the years that meant something to me. And then I also sit at my grandfather's desk, which has a lot of meaning to me. He sat and worked at it when he was a small town doctor. We were able to preserve the desk, and then Brock put in a smoked glass top on it. So I was able to write at it, use my Mac at it, all that good stuff. I knew I wanted to be able to continue to work from home after COVID, film my videos, things like that. So Brock set up a whiteboard wall. Talk to us about how you built this.
It's actually pretty easy, pretty simple materials. You can just get at your local Home Depot. They actually sell these whiteboards and corkboard push pin walls. Measure, cut to size for your exact wall, and then I put some nice trim around it to make it look nice. Pretty easy.
And then we did bring in Kenny to eventually switch out some lighting. I put a flat screen in the wall that streams content. It's just huge functionality in this second bedroom that is now my home office and a place where clients come and meet me and I create a lot of the content that you can find on YouTube, etc. It's a treat to be in my own dining room with one of my top agents, Andy Ogorzaly. Andy has been with EXIT for 10 years, has been a friend of mine for 10 years, just capped out, went to 100% commission this year again. Fantastic agent. He actually is president of his condo board. He's in a high-rise building downtown with about 300 units. Andy, why did you decide to get involved with your condo board?
We had an existing board that just didn't seem to be doing much changes that a lot of owners were looking for. I was kind of pushed by another owner to run for the board, which I had always thought about, and then ended up deciding to do it and volunteer.
You'd mentioned to me before that you probably would want to get involved with the board to make some of those choices. What are some of the choices that you are deciding on behalf of the other building owners then?
We are responsible for basically executing the budget, making sure that all the capital expenditures, repairs are done to make sure that the building can sustain its life.
What would you say a buyer, Andy, should look for when they're purchasing a condominium?
I would say the one that is most overlooked is the condo board meeting minutes. They're long, boring, nothing, it would take you a while to read, but it's your responsibility as a buyer to look that over. You are not just buying into one unit, you're buying into a whole association. So you have equal ownership, of all those common areas that you're responsible for paying for.
Andy, you have a professionally managed association. How important is that relationship between the board and the management, and what are you looking for in a great relationship with the condo management company?
A good, conversational, almost emotional relationship with them, because otherwise that's not going to go well. So there needs to be some rapport that you have to have with your property manager, and sometimes you have to change that person out if there isn't a good rapport with, the board. However, they also need to be competent, right? So they need to know how to negotiate and bring multiple vendors to the table, because these projects are just getting more expensive with COVID. And so you don't want to overpay on a facade project or elevators or something like that. They need to have the knowledge of vendor relationships.
All right, well, thank you, Andy, so much for being with us. Congratulations on your remodel and on all your success at EXIT. Appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick.
So now that you've seen my home from top to bottom renovation wise, let's go and see someone else that can renovate your fashion and your life. My friend Calvin Tran's been doing fashion design for over 20 years. I'm excited to show you his beautiful Lincoln Park boutique. It is a great honor to be here today with my friend Calvin Tran. Calvin is a legend in the Chicago fashion community. He's been on this street for 21 years now?
21 years.
21
yes.
years, which a lot has come and gone. There's been Bloomingdale's, there's been True Religion, all these other big brands that have come and gone. And Calvin has remained here this whole time. He is, again, a staple not only in the Chicago fashion community, but right here in the Lincoln Park commerce community. So, Calvin, tell us, what made you get into fashion?
I'm not a very good student, so I enjoy wearing clothes. 1 year, I just found out that they're gonna kick me out of college. I look at all my papers, I see I'm the sketching of clothing, so I decided maybe I should be a fashion designer. So I moved to Chicago, and that was it. And I become a fashion designer.
I know you've been a very popular person with a lot of celebrities. Talk to me about some of your celebrity clients.
Yes, I used to have a store in New York City in Soho for a long time. My neighbor were Brooke Shields, Iman, Sarah Jessica Parker. So they all come and shop with me. And then I decided to move back to Chicago to open the store here because this is where I'm from.
One thing you're known for is that your clothes do many things at once.
Yes, the clothes I design because I want them to be multifunctional. You can wear them like many different ways. You can turn upside down. A skirt can become a dress, become a ponchos, all in one.
There are women's clothes, but there's also unisex clothes in the store.
I use myself as the fitting models, so I decided to make clothes that what I would like to wear. And I thought like maybe if I could look good in this, I could sell for women too. But since you design your own clothes, you have to make sure that you have to love the clothes and you have to know how it feels on. And a lot of time people design clothes they don't wear, so that's not good either.
That's fascinating. That's actually, I've never heard that before. Someone that uses themselves as their model and is able to still make things that are, beautiful and multifunctional. For a woman or even a man out there, what would be your biggest fashion advice, your one piece of fashion advice?
If you don't feel comfortable, don't wear them. Enjoy yourself, be adventurous. Don't be afraid of just why not. Because clothing is only a personality that you want to be. So have a different look every day. A cowboy look, a sexy look, a dressier look. It's just clothes. So don't be afraid to wear them.
Calvin, how do I look?
You look great. Oh my God. Yes.
I love this. This is pretty amazing. Guys, it has been a pleasure to have you back for episode 4 of Selling Chicago. We are going to be featuring more amazing local businesses like Calvin. Hopefully I'll pick up some more good stuff that'll make me look decent. And for all of you at home, thank you for watching. Thank you for staying tuned to these first 4 episodes. We have a lot more to cover in coming episodes as well. So please stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are in our news segment now for episode 4. And what I'm excited about today is we have Greg Moody with us. Greg is a partner in Codilis and Associates. He's been an attorney since 1991 with Codilis and Associates the entire time. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you, Nick, for the kind words.
So Greg is a partner in one of the largest foreclosure attorney firms in Illinois. What is the difference for a consumer between a short sale and purchasing an REO property after the foreclosure's been completed?
Sure, good question. So a short sale is a negotiation between the homeowner, who typically is in an active foreclosure and is trying to sell the house for less than the amount owed on the mortgage. So that's a short sale. Whereas purchasing a property on an REO property, an REO just stands for real estate owned by the bank. And that's once we've completed the foreclosure. We've taken the property back. The bank owns the property now. So then you as a potential purchaser are dealing directly with a representative of the bank who is selling it now that the foreclosure has been completed.
Realistically, we are getting a lot of questions about is there going to be a huge wave of foreclosures? And what we know is that the banks are still lending. The economy is strong overall, even though some people are suffering. So what we are feeling is because people were educated so well after the last real estate crash, that people know now how to do a short sale, or at least that they know there's options. They don't have to go lose their property to the bank and really devastate their credit for 5 to 7 years. Greg, what would you say, in your legal opinion, is the best advice for someone that's behind on their payments and is potentially looking at a short sale?
No, that's a great question. I think really the biggest thing is to contact your lender early and often. I mean, the ones we find that are successful are generally those that are involved early. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And, it seems like sometimes, people kind of want to bury their head in the sand. they're like kind of paralyzed to take any action, but you need to get a hold of your lender because, I mean, we see right now the vast majority of our files, there's a successful resolution that avoids ever going to a foreclosure sale. And again, those folks that contact the bank early are the ones that usually are successful. And quite frankly, that's the result we all want. That's the win-win, right? If they can work something out with the bank. But you need to be very proactive. I think you're your own advocate for yourself.
What would be your advice, Greg, for a buyer in this market or with any hot property that's in a multiple bid situation?
We're seeing a number of different things. We're seeing, like, for example, a buyer offers to pay X amount over the list price, right? That's one strategy. It's pretty common. And, I kind of look at it from a buyer-seller perspective that the offer is only as good as the financial ability of the purchaser, right? I mean, they can offer $100,000 over the list price, but if they don't have the wherewithal and the means, and it's not going to appraise out, they're never going to be able to buy it. So I look at it from a buyer's perspective that there's different ways of trying to negotiate a deal. My partner Rob Rappy was telling me a deal he recently put together where the buyer offered to pay $10,000 over the appraised price. The third strategy that we're seeing, it's a tough one, and it almost turns it into an auction, is your buyer offers say $1,000 over the highest and best offer. And again, that becomes an auction in a multiple offer situation. And understanding from a seller's perspective, I'm not obligated to take the contract offer that offers the most money. I can look at other things, like, for example, is it a cash deal? Do I have more comfort in the financial information that the buyer has turned over from their bank, that they have the ability to close this deal if the property doesn't appraise out? So it's so important, whether it's a buyer or seller, that you have a real experienced real estate agent like Nick's team that can walk you through this stuff. Because honestly, I think you would agree, Nick, this is probably one of the times where you guys really earn your commission by kind of helping walk through those things and getting a deal done because the inventory is so low.
Just be careful, everyone. One last piece of advice on that is that make sure you don't overpay, whether it's doing the appraisal, gap addendum, whatever it is. Really focus in on the comparables. Notice that this market, the inventory is rising in a lot of locations. This is a nationwide show, but we are seeing inventory rising and the market slowing a little bit. So, well, thank you, Greg, again for being here today. We appreciate you, and have a great weekend. I understand you're going to be away. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. No, thank you, Nick. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Selling Chicago. I'm your host, Nick Liebert. Don't forget to follow me on social media to engage in the conversation and tell me what you'd like to see featured next. You can check out so much more of Chicagoland at our brokerage website, EXITSellsChicago.com. Until next time, cheers to all your real estate dreams.